Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Ibarra, and the title of my advocate project is Advocating to Increase College Access for AB 540 Students. AB 540, for those of you that don't know, is the status that students receive that are undocumented in the state of California. So, some demographic data. There's approximately 11.7 million undocumented individuals in the United States today. About 50 to 60% of those come from Mexico, and about 80% come from Latin America. The state of California has the highest percentage of undocumented individuals in the United States at 21%, followed by the state of Texas, the state of Florida, the state of New York, and Illinois and New Jersey. So there's about 2.4 million undocumented individuals in the state of California. So how is this connected with college access? President Barack Obama has coined education the economic issue of our time, and stating that by a research conducted by Georgetown University states that by the year 2018, 63% of all jobs will require a post-secondary education. In California, that number is 61% for anything beyond high school and 31% for 4 years or higher. The project in which the site in which the project will take place is in the city of Huntington Park. And what you see here is some statistics of demographic density of ethnic groups, and what you see a concentration is 98% of all citizens of the city of Huntington Park are Hispanic or Latino, and only 5.8% of those individuals have a 4-year degree or higher. Now, if you compare that rate with California and the United States, you start to see that overall there is a higher rate of degree attainment in the United States per Latinos, but there's also a smaller percentage. What that means is that the areas with the highest concentration of Hispanics individuals have the lowest concentrations of degree attainment, and the example of that is Huntington Park. Unfortunately, Hispanics tend to be the lowest of degree attainment overall, and that is even more true for undocumented students. So some of the factors of census data of the city of Huntington Park, you have about 36% of non-U.S. citizens. That means that there's a large portion of immigrants in the city of Huntington Park. About 53% pay more than 35% of their income on rent or mortgage. And 45% of the individuals in the city of Huntington Park speak Spanish very well. Now that could mean they could be bilingual, or it could mean that they speak Spanish well and not English. A little bit about the school site. There's about 615 students total, about 140 seniors, 99.7% Hispanic students, 89% of students are receive reduced or free lunch. The school has an 815 API, 12 AP classes, and has a lot of the indicators or research that states that they are well equipped to prepare students for college. Now, to focus more on what the project's about, there's about 12% of our student population that is considered by the state of California to be AB 540. And so the project will focus on how do we increase college access for a group that seems to be disenfranchised compared to the other students. Some research brought in, one from Kano and Cromley, and it focuses a little bit on ELLs. A large portion of our AB 540 students are ELLs, and of all the factors that encourage students to get into college, the expectations seems to be the most impactful. For whatever reason, in other places, when you get the ELL label on you, people tend to lower their expectations and present to you options that match those lower expectations. So the research states that we need to continue with the high expectation and provide options that meet those high expectations. Now, research specific to AB 540 students states that students cannot be allowed to use their status as an excuse to not enroll into college. And so and you will see later on in the project, there's plenty of colleges that are AB 540 friendly, and now with deferred action and the California Dream Act, there are more options to where to go to college. And that was a study conducted by Perez in 2010. So the two legislations, you have the California Dream Act 1 and 2. What I have on here is some of the requirements that students need to have in order to qualify for AB 540 status. Now this goes for all students that are undocumented. What you see down below is a website where you can click, and it gives you all the information on what students qualify for and what they don't qualify for. And so what the California DREAM Act legislation has done is it's allowed undocumented students to receive both private and public financial aid. Public financial aid in the form of Cal Grants. So this doesn't mean they receive FAFSA, but they do receive state financial aid. The second legislation is deferred action, which allows students to apply for like a temporary visa that allows them to obtain employment and apply for colleges. I have a link there, and it actually has a video and all of the requirements. And this link is also a link that I showed the staff, and the video I showed the staff as well, and the staff showed the video to their students. So I'll get into a little bit more of the details of that later. So the purpose of the project is I got my hands on some college access information for AB 540 students, and I'm actually going to put those documents underneath this posting, so if any of you want to have that information, it's actually really neat. It's very well organized. I'll have it there. So that information that I got, I wanted it to transfer that information over to all the students and set a protocol on providing direction for students that are AB 540. Now, it's a tricky situation because you can't necessarily identify these students publicly. Most of it is done through counseling records, and so it's a trick to identify them with the rest of the students. So what you have to do is you have to provide clear options on where these kids can go to, and then once they do that, you can keep record of it in a more private, confidential matter. So I'm hoping that with our lead meetings that we have for the advisory program, we would be able to implement the AB 540 college awareness curriculum with our advisory teachers, and then they would then transfer that information to the students. So the resources that I used, we had the AB 540 guide, and you'll see it's a green dot document. The AB 540 friendly colleges, it's a list of colleges that we want all students to see that were friendly to undocumented students, meaning they provided extra financial aid and extra resources on campus that would facilitate the transition to those schools. And finally, a sponsorship program that we wanted to create for our AB 540 students, where they go out to the community and they try to obtain sponsors from anybody to any business to any organization. And so it's something that we're trying to get going in semester 2, and I'll get into a little bit more of the details of that. And finally, we had our ASB College Ready Promoter, as well as a guide for deferred action and methods of what to do now for our AB 540 students. So I'm going to put all of those resources below. So what we did is we had the meetings, and then we had the leads implement those into their lesson plans, and our advisory teachers actually delivered the lesson to students. The two pinned access points that we decided to go with were myself, being that I am experienced with AB 540 because I was AB 540, and our college and career counselor. He's had 8 years, and he was the one that actually gave me the data on the AB 540 students. And so what was great is that the results were that the majority of our staff was not as informed about this topic as I originally thought, and I knew there was some disconnection, but I didn't know there was this much disconnection. Some of these staff didn't even know what AB 540 was, and I was very shocked to know that they didn't know that 12% of their students were AB 540. And it's amazing some of the reactions I got from the staff when I told them about the options they had. They couldn't believe that these kids couldn't receive FAFSA, that these kids had been denied access to certain scholarships, to certain institutions. They couldn't believe that in this country, students who have potential and have demonstrated that they can succeed are denied. And that's one of the biggest impactful moments that I felt during the professional development where we discussed these topics with the staff. Um, as far as the students, I felt like we did get some more students to talk, and not necessarily about students within the school, but they did ask us if we could help them provide information for people that they knew outside of school. Now, I don't know how much of that was true. There's no way I can force kids to tell me, but regardless if it was for themselves or if it was for somebody outside of school, we're advocating for these students. And if it could go beyond these walls, then by all means, I would appreciate that. I wrote surveys on there, but I meant to state the feedback. So that was some of the feedback we got, and some of the items that disappointed me a little bit were the lack of passion that some of my teachers demonstrated, and also there were at times where teachers told me that the students weren't taking the topic seriously. Now I don't know how much of that is the students not wanting to take it seriously, or the staff not wanting to take it seriously, or not really understanding the seriousness of the situation. And so we had, the opposite. We had teachers that were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening in our country." And then we had teachers that said, "You know what? Um, whatever, life goes on." It's like, okay, well, I got other things to worry about, and that really breaks my heart, in by all means, in every sense of that word. But I feel like if we keep pounding the story in and understanding and bringing to light the injustices that are happening, either these staff members won't want to be at our school site anymore, or they'll realize the significance of what this means for these students. So, reflecting on the entire project, I am happy that I'm in a position in my life where I can advocate for something that I've always felt strongly about, and I will continue to do so. Um, I do feel that with the legislation like Deferred Action and California Dream Act, and even the federal Dream Act that didn't pass, that was a very close legislation. It almost reached the president, and I know the president stated he was going to sign it. I feel like there is hope, and I think that the more education we obtain and the more awareness we spread and the more we advocate for a equal opportunity for all students, regardless of where they come from or how they got here, we'll start to see a lot of the attitude shift towards these students, um, and continue to increase equality for all. And I'm amazed by the resiliency that these students demonstrate, and the fact that when we presented this information, when they came to us to seek answers, and they wanted to act on those answers. It wasn't about just, oh, okay, I know, okay, great, I'm aware, let's move on with life. It was like, okay, what do I do now? Who do I contact? How do I go where I need to be? And it brings joy to me, and I really did like and appreciate what this project was and what it stood for, and I'm gonna continue working in this field, and hopefully I can create change and fight with continue my mission in fighting for these students. So thank you all. Sorry for the lighting. I just, it's kind of crazy over here. It's a Friday night. No, I'm just kidding. Well, enjoy your nights, guys, and I hope this was helpful, and I hope that I get to find joy in some of your guys' projects as well. Okay, good night.